Thea Stilton. Mouseford Academy. A Fashionable Mystery. Scholastic. Beach Day. The halls of Mouseford Academy were completely deserted. Classes had ended for the weekend, and the building was as quiet as a mouse. The sun shone brightly, and an ocean breeze drifted through the windows. The lack of students was easy to explain. This was the first real beach day of the year. Most mice flocked to the wide beaches on the east coast of Whale Island, but Mouseford students and professors liked Seashell Beach best. It was a small cove with calm water surrounded by rocks that were good for climbing. Every year, Nikki volunteered to be a weekend lifeguard. She loved waking up before everyone else and jogging to the deserted cove. In the early morning, Nikki had the beach all to herself. That morning, however, Nikki had company. As soon as she got to the cove, Nikki noticed a strange rodent sitting on the rocks, staring out to sea. As soon as the stranger heard Nikki approach, she jumped to her feet. The mouse quickly put on her wide-brimmed straw hat, adjusted her sunglasses, and took off running like she was on an exercise wheel. Nikki shrugged. How strange. On the road. At Mouseford Academy, the other Thea sisters were also running. They were really late. Hurry, mouselets. We'll miss the bus. Paulina called, her voice echoing in the empty hallway. Colette took too long putting on her sunscreen. Pam grumbled, lugging a heavy bag full of towels. You're supposed to apply sunscreen before you go outside. Colette exclaimed. Well, what about the 20 minutes you spent picking out a bathing suit? Pam asked. There are no shortcuts where fashion is concerned. Colette panted, clutching her purple beach bag. The Thea sisters jogged out of the building and saw a big group boarding the beach bus. Finally, you're here. Ellie sighed as soon as she saw the Thea sisters climb on the bus. Shin and Craig were on the bus as well. They were already wearing their bathing suit. Mousselings, we'll have to split up to get seats, Pam said. She waved at Paulina, who had already been pushed to the back of the bus by the crowd. An old lady sat in front of Paulina, next to a tourist wearing a brightly colored Hawaiian shirt. Oof. The lady sighed. Every summer gets worse. There are more and more tourists, and no seats on the bus. The rodent in the Hawaiian shirt turned to her. Are you from around here? He asked. I bet you know everyone on the island. Paulina noticed that he was wearing a professional-looking camera. My friend Anna absolutely loves this island, the tourist continued. She has blue eyes and short blonde hair. She arrived a few days ago. Maybe you've seen her? The old mouse shook her head and dug a magazine out of her bag. The mouse with the camera didn't give up. He spent the whole trip asking everyone around him if they'd seen his friend Anna. Finally, the bus reached the first stop. Turtle Beach, the bus driver called. In a few short minutes, more than half the passengers had gotten off. The Thea sisters could finally sit next to one another. The mice chattered excitedly as they dropped into their seats. Soon they would be at the beach enjoying some fun in the sun. Seashell Beach. At the cove, Nikki stood on a rock with a good view of the beach. She peered at the sky through a pair of binoculars. On Whale Island, the weather could change quickly. Nikki wanted to be sure there were no thunderstorms coming. Nikki turned to look at the hills behind her and caught a glimpse of a remote cottage named Cheddarton House. Cheddarton House was well known on the island, but no one had lived there for a long time. Strange, Nikki said to herself. It looks like the cottage windows are open. Maybe the owner finally rented it out. As Nikki wa with diaresis tched, someone stepped onto the balcony. She immediately recognized the mysterious mouse who had been sitting on the beach that morning. Just then the bus drove up, honking loudly. Nikki immediately spotted her friends among the crowd of rodents headed to the beach and hurried to meet them. "Our favorite lifeguard!" Colette shouted in greeting. She dropped her huge bag on the ground and hung Nikki enthusiastically. "Look how many of us came today. You'll have your paws full keeping an eye on everyone." Nikki laughed. "If you wanted the beach to yourself, you shouldn't have taken so long getting ready." Nikki thought about the strange mouse she just spotted through her binoculars. "This morning when I got to the beach, there was someone here early. But she ran away when she saw me. I think she's renting Cheddarton House." The others turned to look at the cottage, but they couldn't see much. Craig bounded up and interrupted them. "We're playing beach volleyball after lunch. You should join us," he squeaked. "It's going to be the game of the century, professors versus students." Craig's enthusiasm was so contagious that none of them could resist. After lunch, the students set up a net. Craig volunteered to be the captain of the student team, and Professor Robert Plotfer led the professors. The two captains shook paws to start the game. On Craig's team, Pam and Paulina got into position. Professors Ian Van Kraken and Anna Aria took their spots on the other side of the net. As the lifeguard, Nikki had to stay on the rocks to watch the swimming area, but every once in a while, she turned to see how the game was going. It was an exciting matchup. The students got an early lead. Pam and Paulina were excellent players. But the professors were good, too. They came back strong and won the whole thing. "Rematch!" Craig demanded, eager to redeem himself. Violet checked the time and gasped. "It's 4 o'clock. We have a newspaper editorial meeting at the academy," she exclaimed. "Mouselets, we're late. We have to go." The summer issue. The two teams agreed to postpone the rematch until the following day. "The news waits for no mouse," said Professor Plotfer. The Thea sisters made it back to school in record time. When they finally burst into the classroom where the rest of the newspaper staff was meeting, everyone else was already there. "Sorry we're late," Violet cried, sitting down at the table. Tanya, the editor-in-chief, smiled. "Don't worry, you deserve some beach time." "Ruby's not here yet, either." She rolled her eyes. Ruby Flashyfur always preferred to arrive fashionably late. She waltzed in a few minutes later in a cloud of perfume, plopped into a chair, and sighed. "I hated to leave my new super deluxe hot tub to come to this meeting." Tanya tapped the table with her pen. "Let's focus, Mousellings. We only have 2 weeks before the special summer issue comes out, and we need some Fabumouse ideas." "We could interview the village fisher mice," Paulina suggested. Ruby shorted. "That would be great if we wanted to put all our readers right to sleep." "If you don't like that idea, Ruby, why don't you suggest something?" Pam said. Ruby tossed her hair. "Well, now that you mention it, I do have the perfect idea." She paused dramatically. "We should do an article on the most exclusive hotspot for the rich and Fabumouse, my mom's yacht." "We featured your mom's yacht last year," Tanya reminded her. "Don't you remember? You wouldn't stop talking about it." Ruby turned as red as a gouda cheese rune, and the other mice broke into giggles. "Who else has thoughts?" Tanya continued. "The summer issue is our big chance to do something creative." Tanya's eyes lit up like she was staring down at a gourmet cheese plate. The room got very quiet. The news mice stared at their paws, thinking carefully. "Why don't we go to dinner?" Ellie suggested finally, breaking the silence. "We can pick up tomorrow morning after some well-aged chatter and a good night's sleep." "That always helps me." Tanya shrugged. Sounds good. I want to hear some Fabumouse ideas from all of you tomorrow. Flash of genius. After taking their beach gear to their rooms, the Thea sisters met at the cafeteria and got in line for food. Pam, who was hungry after a busy day at the beach, filled up her tray with lots of triple cheese pizza. Colette shook her head. Haven't you ever heard of a well-balanced meal? Sure. Pam replied with a big smile. Look at my tray, it's perfectly balanced on my paw. Paulina laughed and carefully surveyed her veggie options. She was famous for her elaborate, super creative salads. She stopped suddenly and turned to Colette. I've got the perfect idea for the summer issue healthy food to eat at the beach, she exclaimed, beaming. An article like that would certainly be useful to Pam. Colette teased. Then she stared at Pam, suddenly serious. Oh, dear, I think you got sunburned today. Pam touched her face and grimaced. My snout feels like cheese toast. But maybe that could be an article in the summer issue, too, Colette continued. DIY treatments for sunburn. You are a genius, Colette. Paulina said, clapping her paws together. The summer issue can be all about having fun in the sun while staying healthy. Skin care, fur treatments, good food, the possibilities are endless. The friends found an empty table and sat down to eat. Pamela took a bite from an enormous slice of pizza. Yum! Violet tasted her cheddar broccoli soup and set her spoon down. I just can't stop thinking about the summer issue, she said. I like the healthy summer fun idea, but I have another thought. What was the most important event that happened this school year? Professor Camille Ratishnikov's arrival, of course. Paulina replied with no hesitation. The professor's new theater class certainly got everyone talking, Colette agreed. Violet nodded. Right. In my opinion, since the school year is ending, we should do a story on Professor Ratishnikov and the new performing arts program. Violet started to explain her idea in more detail. Colette pulled out a pen to jot down their brainstorming notes. None of them noticed that someone close by was eavesdropping. Connie and Zoe had sneakily found a table right behind the Thea sisters, hidden from view by a giant plant. When they heard Violet mention the newspaper, their ears perked up. Violet continued explaining her plan. We could start by